All right. So we figured out all these technical difficulties, and we'll wait a few seconds to let people jump on.
We made it. We're here.
We're here.
Technology worked.
Yeah, absolutely. So give a few more seconds. Good background, man.
You like that? I see the dog in the background sleeping.
Yeah,
It's good stuff.
I've never actually been inside there, so it's kind of like inside. So yeah. Cool. So let's get started. So I want to welcome everybody to the second episode of the BeBattle Ready show, where we dig deep into what it takes to be battle ready in your sales, marketing, and systems, and leadership as well. And what it's going to take to go to war on the marketplace. Hey, I'm your host, Anthony Campo, founder of Battle Ready Business and lifestyle business coach. I'm super excited to have on my first guest today, Mike Pearson.
What's up, everybody?
What's going on? Mike is an entrepreneur and founder of Advanced Behavioral Health, Inc., that provides services for children on the autism spectrum. Mike's worked with companies to help align their vision with their business. He has served as president of 2 companies in the personal development market and continues to lead by example. He's passionate about helping others and making an immediate impact in organizations. So, awesome. Let's get into it. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, Anthony. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's an honor to be on, episode number 2. So let's dive in. Let's do this. I'm excited.
Cool. So tell me how you got started into business and where you're at now.
All right. So this is it's kind of a loaded question, right? So I got started into business way back in college. Well, yeah, back in college, actually. So I've always had side hustles. I've always been dabbling in different like marketing tactics and things like that. And I started my first business in the late 1990s where, back in the day, I was on a 56K. It was like a 28.8, and then it went to a 56K dial-up modem. And I was an affiliate marketer back then when I was still in my undergrad. And I taught myself how to hand code HTML, create websites, and just do things for fun. So that's kind of the first business I ever started. And then, I graduated. I got a job, I got another job, then I moved, relocated a little bit, started another business for about 18 months where I was providing like IT services for companies. Again, this was in the early 2000s. Then I went into corporate, why not? Let's go into the corporate world and kind of work your way out. And so I took the corporate ladder and it was, everything was fantastic. And then, I got burnt out like a lot of people do. And so I left and I went into the personal development market, and I've been working kind of for my own and with other companies for the last 8 years or so. And then just about 14, 15 months ago, I started, I got a big push. I got kicked in the pants and I started Advanced Behavioral Health. And, things are scary, things are exciting, and things are growing just, amazingly. So that's kind of how I got started in the business, and sometimes you need that kick in the pants to do it.
Cool. So, quick question. So, like, as this part is format, I want to go over, biggest pains, biggest victories. So, what? Tell me a story about what your biggest victory in business is.
I've got lots of victories that seem large at the time.
Yeah.
And then, a year from now or a year from then, they seem kind of tiny, right? So I've done everything from putting, 1,000 SKUs onto Amazon, which was for a company where, we were selling through an e-commerce store, and I launched their Amazon platform for them. So it was a huge victory at the time. And it still is a huge victory because they were selling a ton through Amazon. So it's little things like that where I try and kind of bucket my victories and look at them each week versus like, hey, this is a huge victory. Because when you look back, like, all of your big victories kind of seem small because you're going into the next level and you're like up leveling each time you do it. So I try my best to look back, first of all, just each week and reflect on like, what did I accomplish this week and what are those victories? And then, I think the biggest victory for me, and it's not really like the Amazon thing was cool. Starting a company was cool. Growing a company is cool. All that stuff, they're huge victories, but it's looking back at the last 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or, 18 months, and then taking that collective. And that's really where my victories come in, because it's the progress and just the growth of myself, the, different companies I've worked for and at, or, that I run, are really what makes the big victories for me.
Cool. Awesome. So let's talk about, tell me about your biggest struggle and how you overcame it.
Try and just put me on the spot. So the biggest struggle is, it's pretty easy. And it's, as you know, Anthony, like the life of an entrepreneur, it's the voice inside your head saying, that idea is not going to work. That idea is stupid. You're going to fail. You're going to go bankrupt, like all of those things. And for me, that's been a constant struggle. And, we all do it to ourselves because we're our own worst critic, right? We're always telling ourselves, oh, we didn't look good or whatever, this idea is stupid. So, a couple of the ways that I've overcome this, and I'm continuing to overcome this, and this is it's an ongoing progress, right? We're making progress. And so how I overcame it was I surround myself with go-getters. I surround myself with people who have walked the path before me, right? Who can give me, I can ask them questions. I've got a group of mentors from my corporate world that I'll text them, not even every week, but, once or twice a month, I'll say, hey, can we go out to lunch? I got some questions. I want to pick your brain. I remember, I think it was last summer that you had come over to our house and we had dinner and then we were hanging out in the backyard and, I was sharing kind of where I was at and you were sharing, where you were at, and you had walked a path like right before I did, maybe a year or so prior. And it helped me, like it helped calm my nerves and put a lot of things in perspective. And it was exactly like what I needed at the time to say like, oh, it's all these little stepping stones. So that's the biggest struggle. And that's, I just overcome it by networking and, talking with go-getters and talking with people who have my back.
Yeah. So, it's good you bring that up because as a solo entrepreneur, you're just by yourself. You're the only person in charge, right?
Right.
The void of having any support team, right? And everything relying on you and having to find those answers is like sometimes overwhelming.
For
right?
sure.
And it's like, I look back at the times that I did do well in those times and the times that I didn't. And it was very similar. It's like, instead of taking it all on myself, and I think we have this, if we have to set, to step out, we have to set ourselves at this high expectation, right? But at the same time, that expectation and that leap, we really need to not allow ourselves get into this Superman complex, right? Where we feel like we have to do it all instead of relying on our team, on our mentors, and other resources out in the market, right? Or that are around us, if it has to do with, even getting down into personal development and spirituality and things like that. So, because that stuff gets questioned as well.
For sure. Yeah, no, that's a great point.
So, all right. So tell me about your most successful marketing campaign. So today's show, we're, how we do this, the format. Week 1 is leadership. Week 2 is marketing. Week 3 is sales. And week 4 is lifestyle and personal development. So, for today, you are my marketing expert. You're probably one of the best marketers. I have you and my one of my other mentors in marketing, and you guys are awesome at it. So I want to get down into that. So, and tell me about the most successful campaign.
Definitely. So, I've got a couple different ones that kind of come off the top of my head. So I mentioned at the top of the call that It was like 1999. I taught myself how to create web pages. I was doing affiliate marketing. And at that time, I created a system to drive 70,000 visitors to a web page back in 1999. Like, try and do that now. It's damn near impossible. And so
Yeah.
that was a huge marketing campaign. And then guess what? Everything evolved. Everything changed. And that campaign just died literally overnight. I had it all buttoned up and then just fell off a cliff because you have to evolve. You always have to keep changing. So
How'd you pivot?
What's that? Go ahead.
Like those times, because that's like, I remember back when Facebook and Google changed their algorithm back in 2015, and we saw our traffic go like this, bam, like completely straight down. We were getting like, for a small business, we were getting over 7,000 views a month or visits a month, and we went down to like 4, like like this, and we saw the numbers and phone calls drop like that too.
Yeah, and that's again, like I was in my undergrad, I was driving 70,000 like visitors to a website. I'm like, I'm going to retire in a year. This is amazing. And then boom, gone. And that's when I went to get a job. So that was one of my successful marketing campaigns, and I've had a bunch, right? So I've grown Facebook audiences, I've grown Instagram audiences. Those are all fantastic. And then guess what? Boom, algorithm changed. Doesn't matter how many fans you have because it's now pay for play on Facebook, right? So it's all those things where there's super successful campaigns at the time, you're doing great, and then oops, something changes. Here's something this is a relatively new one. And again, this will probably be gone in like 6 months. It'll drop off the face like everything else. So this is for behavioral health. And this is on Facebook. This is a stealth, like ninja thing that I've been doing for a while, and it works out fantastic, and it's amazing. So I recorded a series of videos that people, like my fans, will never see, and the majority of Facebook will never see because they're all paid ads. And in our business, a lot of our funding comes from different insurance companies like Kaiser, Blue Shield, Blue Cross, Magellan, like all those guys, right? So I need a way to target clients. And what I did was I started targeting specific companies and creating specific videos for those specific companies. So if they're a Kaiser client, I'm mentioning Kaiser at the start of the video. And it's the specific companies, the specific likes, and the specific interests with the specific videos, right? So it's super targeted. And we have one video that, again, this isn't shared anywhere. It's got over 17,000 views as of this morning. It's been shared organically over 200 times, and it consistently generates, I'd say, on average, between 1 to 2 qualified leads for us every single week. And a lead for us can be as little as $1,000 a month in revenue, a gross, or up to 4,000 or 5,000 in revenue, depending on lots of factors. So I spend a whopping $30 a month on this paid ad, and I generate 1 to 2 qualified leads a week. Now, multiply that video by 3, 5, 7, 10. I've got more clients in my pipeline coming through to me, and my ROI is absolutely ridiculous. I can run this ad for an entire year. I don't even need, one client will pay for this ad for the next 3 years, right? So there's no need for me to ramp it. It's out there, it goes. I spend $1 a day. The ROI is absolutely ridiculous because I'm so super targeted on my demographics. And it's, right now for me, that's the biggest win because it's phenomenal until something changes and then it just drops off a cliff.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, now you've put the name in the video, and have you in the ads manager hone that down even more?
Yeah, so I'm targeting, for instance, Kaiser, right? I will target anyone who likes Kaiser, anyone who has an interest in Kaiser, and then, we provide services to children on the autism spectrum. So I'm targeting, those various likes and interests, like Autism Speaks and, all those things. The video that has done the best for us, it's a video in Spanish, and it's 100% Spanish. Our audience on Facebook is English speaking. So they never see this video. The ad is all written. There's the video, and then underneath it, it's the ad, and everything's in Spanish because it's targeted to Spanish-speaking audience. And that, along with some of our others, you just have to get super granular and super focused. And Facebook, the cool thing about it is all of those hooks are there and you can take advantage of them right now.
Yeah.
And it's pretty awesome.
It's funny you say that. I was on a coaching call a few months ago with a young kid who was interested in doing marketing and starting his own business. And, he's in San Jose, from San Jose, Hispanic background. And he had this vision of like going and provide social media marketing, Facebook marketing, all that stuff, and doing that managed service for that. I go, man, if you just go all in and get your like little pieces dialed in, I mean, I think there's such an arbitrage there, because I don't think there's a lot of people playing that space, especially when you start getting into paid advertising. Because then, I would run in different languages when I was working at the shopping center and running the ads for the shopping center.
Right.
In Vietnamese, in Tagalog, in Spanish. I'd just go ahead and, if I was doing a Spanish speaking event, I would go just market to them. So, and then it worked out. Cost of video views, cost of, any action was a lot lower than any other way. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's right now with Facebook, it's kind of the heyday for marketers. If you can create something that will drive engagement, it will get seen and you will get an ROI from it. And that's really, it's key right now, because it's going away and it's getting more expensive. A couple of years ago, it was a lot cheaper to do and the game was a little bit different, and it's always evolving. And right now there's still such a huge opportunity to target your exact demographic. It's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. Cool. So let's move on to the next question. So if you had to describe a debate in your head, what would it sound like?
That's a great one. So I don't know if you've seen this meme, but there's a meme out there that I actually have on my desktop that it's a graph, right? And it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. And there's higher peaks and lower valleys and all that. And, essentially the title is A Day in the Life of an Entrepreneur. And, the up is I'm excited. And then, oh crap, this is so hard. Oh my God, it's working. Oh man, I screwed up. I think, and then it's, oh my gosh, this is going from good to great. And then the next one is like off a cliff. I'm going to go bankrupt. And then it's like, wait a minute, why am I so hard on myself? It's working, everything's going well. And then like the next minute is, oh my gosh, I was wrong. I suck, and then it goes, wait a second, my life is awesome. So that's something that is constantly going on in my head. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Like even this morning, I was looking at, last week and like kind of where we were at. And I'm like, it wasn't that good, even though it was good, it wasn't like what I had expected. So it's that, it's the day in the life of an entrepreneur. And, 1 minute you're on a high and then the next minute you're like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? So the one thing that I try and do is just, I try and make sure that I try and minimize as best I can, which is the hardest thing to say and the hardest thing to actually do. I try and minimize the lows and celebrate the highs, because that's what it's all about. And it's a roller coaster, right? I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, Anthony, like, the highs and lows of this. So.
Oh man, I was having a conversation with myself, I think in the last couple of days, of like asking myself, like, why am I trying harder stuff? Like, like I think it's harder to be by yourself and trying to do something like, the way to build this business right now, right? What I'm doing is, I think I'm like even more crazier. I'm like, part of me is like, I want to go back to having a team and like going and like, having some, like I remember building the gym and it was like, I knew what I had to do that day. Right. And there's certain things I know how to do, but there's so much, like if you have something to go do and you're like, all right, we need to go like paint this place today. And then we need to go do this. It's like these big things. And then everything here is so like, I don't know, right?
Yeah, you're on an island, you're all by yourself in that role, which is tough. It's hard, for sure.
And then the people around you are like, well, it's so virtual that it's like, you really don't go and do anything, right? Doesn't look like it. So, yeah. Cool. Struggles.
I know that too well.
All right. So let's look at the next question. Look, so Battle Ready Business is targeted for aspiring entrepreneurs and current business owners, right? To help them build a battle ready business. So what's the number one piece of advice if someone was going to start a business that, or is currently in business, that in a summary, what are the big high level things that you would put in place to make them battle ready? And battle ready is like, look, they go to war in the marketplace and they win.
Right. I think that's a great question. So, I mean, I've got a lot of advice, and I'll try and just cut it down to a few quick bullet points. As I mentioned, like, surround yourself with like-minded people who are going to be there to support you, right? Like, you don't want the naysayers and you don't want the energy vampires who are like, you're never going to succeed. Like, just push those people aside. You want to surround yourself with, again, the go-getters, the people who are doing it, the people who've already walked the path, find a mentor. Like, that's been crucial for me. And that's been a lot of, like, if you want to open a business, or if you're in a business and you want to get to that next level and become battle ready, is to find a mentor who has walked that path before. And, I look at it and I'll tell you a story. So, I've got 2 little kids at home, and I coach their soccer, I coach their basketball, I coach their baseball, everything. I taught them how to swim in the pool, like all that stuff, right? But my expertise can only get them so far. And, it was fun. I love coaching. That's like part of who I am. And I love the interactions with all the kiddos, but I can't take my kids to the next level because I don't know everything about soccer. I can fake it, and I could be a coach at 5 years old because it's easy. But, my son's 11 and he's pretty good, and there's no way like I could get him to that level. His footwork is beyond me, the things that he can do. So he's playing competitive soccer. I had to find a mentor for him to take him to that next level. And, his coaches played professionally, like in Mexico, and, things that I don't know the first thing about soccer compared to what they do. Same thing with my daughter. She's 8 and she's in competitive gymnastics. I mean, there's one thing to, try and fake your way through like soccer or something, but get to gymnastics. I need someone who's going to coach her and make her better because she loves it, right? And that's like everything that they do. Piano. I don't know anything about piano. I got to find a coach. I got to find a mentor. Swimming, all that stuff. So, I look at my kids and we find our kids mentors and our kids coaches, but then at the same time, like, I don't find a coach, right? Like, and the biggest piece of advice is like, why don't we do the same things as our kids do? Because, Dominic started playing soccer and he went from here to here. Yeah, he could have, I could have got him to here, but in the same amount of time, he made leaps and bounds because he had a coach. And I don't know too many professional athletes or Olympians who got to where they were like by themselves, right? They all have nutritionists, strength coaches, all that stuff. And, it kind of goes back to, you have to put the ego aside for me, because I like to do everything myself, and it's hard to give things up, and it's hard to take advice, and it's hard to take suggestions because that's who I am. Like, I figure I can just do it all myself. And so I think the biggest piece of advice out of all this and out of that story is, yes, you can surround yourself with people who can kind of, give you some feedback and mentorship and whatnot, but it's really about, I'm on this mountain and I want to get to this mountain. I can go all the way down and I can go all the way up, but if I can get a coach or a mentor who's just going to build me a bridge and I can just run across, like, that's the piece that, put my ego aside, because they're going to get me there so much faster. So that's been a big challenge for me, is getting feedback from those mentors. And that has also helped me to get to where I'm at so much faster, especially in the last, I'd say 18 months. Just, you can trust in people who have already walked that path, and they're there for you in the ups and downs, and they're guiding you each step of the way. So, for me, that's probably helped me get my business like as battle ready as possible. And that's the advice I'd give to anyone else is, you can absolutely do it yourself. All the information's out there. Everything's on YouTube. But do you want to spend, 3, 4, 500 hours, or do you just want to pick up the call someone and say, hey, what should I do about XYZ? And then they have real world experience and they can, they can get you there in an instant versus, you're pulling your hair out and you're doubting yourself and everything else. So.
Yeah. I mean, if you try to do it on your own, you're going to test and test and test. And there's a big cost to that, not just in just equity, and money, but in time, right? Which is number one asset, right? Like,
absolutely. Absolutely.
In my master class, I had this picture and I found it was pretty cool. And it was kind of, in my mind, epitomized, right, what a mentor does. So there's a gap between two mountains and there's a pencil drawing a bridge and people are walking across it. And I look at, look, the mentors and coaches and all that stuff do not do it for you. They just give you the drawing, right, that allows you to build the bridge, right? Like you just said, right? Building a bridge across that, right? This is the path. And I mean, all the times that I've had mentors, it's been crazy successful. And like, I actually submitted to that, earlier this year with my nutrition. I hired a coach and I was like, it was such a pride thing for me, but I had a lot of success, right? Because I was on a path and I was committed, and there's just something about that. I grew up in team sports, so.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So what would you give to your 20 or 30-year-old self?
It's interesting. So I turned 40 last year, which is crazy. And it's, it's like, wow, I'm old. And, I thought I was old at 30 and now I'm old at 40. But, I think the advice I would give to my 20-year-old self is to just take the jump, right? I've always walked the path where I started and then something went wrong. So I quickly talked myself out of like going forward with it, right? Like I mentioned, I was driving tons of traffic and then something changed overnight. I just gave up. I said, I'm done. It's not going to work. I'm just going to move on. I'm going to get a job. And then I did a job for a little bit and, then I moved and then I started another business. Same thing. Like it was all going well. Something changed. I just kind of said, I'm kind of done with that. I'm going to go into corporate. So I think all the experiences that I have lived have been awesome, and it helped me shape kind of where I'm at and like the leader I am and all of that. But I think the advice I would give is just experiment and, dive in with 2 feet, right? Like I'd always dabble and I'd always try a little bit, but I'd always have a backup plan. And backup plans are great. And I like multiple streams of income because those are fantastic as well, which I still have today. I've got a couple different streams of income. But I'm committing now versus before. Like if it didn't work, it wasn't a big deal to me. But if I would have probably dove in my 20s, it would have been that much more rewarding and that much more amazing than like kind of where I'm at right now. So I think that's probably, you got to look for the signs and then just be open to accepting help and jumping in, right? Like for me, that's probably the biggest thing is I love my whole life and everything that I've done. I think I could have gotten where I'm at a lot sooner if I would have just, taken the leap. And sometimes you just got to trust in yourself. And it was a process and it still is. But I think that's what I'd tell myself at 20 is just to jump in with 2 feet.
Cool. So it's probably one of the last questions and then we can just wrap.
Yeah, for sure.
When you think of a phrase, be battle ready in marketing, what comes to mind?
I love that question. So being battle ready from a business and marketing perspective, I would say, and I think marketing more than anything else is you want to understand the strategies and tactics on what it's going to look like to lead your business into battle. And you want to, you got to look at who's leading in the space, what are they doing? What are they not doing? What are the masses doing? And then, what are some of the other folks doing? But, marketing and business, and it's marketing in general and both, they're not linear, right? You go up, you go down, you take it forward, you take 2 steps forward, you take 1 step back. And being battle ready is about having the plan, the overall plan. You've got the strategy, you've got the tactics, and you're going into business and you're going into battle, but then you also know when to pivot, right? Like that's kind of the crucial piece. So I think being battle ready is I've got the whole plan. I'm good. I'm marching into battle, but I also know that battles aren't just fought forwards and backwards. They're not just fought up and downs. Like you're going to go in, you're going to hit a roadblock. So you got to pivot around it. You got to go, like, how do I get around this obstacle or this, how do I turn this obstacle into an opportunity? So I think it's all about having that plan and then just being ready to adapt and being open to things that are going to happen, right? Because nothing goes the way it's planned. I mean, rarely in life, any of my marketing has ever gone like, oh, just launch this and, ROI is amazing. It's always tinkering and changing and adjusting. And, I'm still tinkering and adjusting and it works. So it's about adapting. And then that's how you get to the next level.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. That's just having to be able to pivot, right? Like I look at so many like different like founders, entrepreneurs, they're just a lot of them are like fly by the pants, right? And just go. And I think the biggest thing is knowing how to pivot and like, and not having to have everything dialed in and ready to go. Part of what I'm coaching people on is, right, these 4 battles within their daily battles within their business so they can build upon, right, these simple daily actions to build themselves in business. But at the end of the day, you just got to pivot, right? And you just got to, if something goes awry or anything like that, you just got to go after it and pivot,
Absolutely. And it's all about failing as many times as you can, right? Because the more I fail, the better the business is going to get, as long as it's not a huge failure. Like everything is if I can turn all of my failures into learning opportunities and experiences, like I'm just that much better for it. So it's all about the pivot for sure.
Yeah. Fail forward fast.
You have to.
So is there anything else you want to cover? I mean, what's on your mind? What's going on? What do you got planned over the next couple of weeks?
So, in the business, it's all about expansion right now. We are relatively new and, the cool part is we've reinvented like how this business receives clients and all that stuff. And, we've onboarded a lot of new people recently. And for me, like where I'm at right now is it's about the culture of the company is first and foremost. I've got kind of 2 pillars to the company. First is customer service, for not only our internal team, but also the clients and the families we serve. And then the second is it's the culture and making sure that the culture is, it's a fun culture. People want to work with us and really focusing on that and giving back to the team and making sure that they're kind of top of mind all the time. It's amazing at what you can create in such a short amount of time when your focus is on the right things. And those are kind of the 2 things that I kind of drill into my team each and every week and each and every day is, we got to be customer service oriented. And that means just going above and beyond for everyone. Our clients, if they have a question, even if we get a random phone call and it's not for us, we still call the people back, or if we don't answer it, or emails or whatever, like we're always going above and beyond. And then, my team is growing very quickly, but I'm trying to control that growth because I want to make sure that the culture stays intact. So the next probably 2 months, that's going to be 90% of my focus is making sure. I think we did a great job with hiring like some of our higher level folks, but making sure they're integrated with the company and making sure their culture, culturally, they're a great fit, which I think they are, but also just fostering the same team building and team environment that we've done for the last year or so. So that's kind of where my focus is, and it's exciting. It's fun. And it's, challenging, everything at the same time. I go back to that's what it is. It's what it's all about.
Yeah. I mean, what I got out of that too, what you just said about, the simple things like calling people back is this idea of growth through depth instead of width, right? My theme for the year is depth, not width, right? So we can grow by acquiring more customers, but we can all, by trying to market so wide and go hit different areas, but there's so much you can do by just, going above and beyond with your current customers, right? Without any expectation, calling them back or checking in on them and seeing how everything's going, right? Just doing some surprise and delight. I was just designing a program that had a lot about just doing that, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, when you focus on the business and you focus on the right things, like business just comes. And it's pretty amazing, because I know there's a lot of businesses that are struggling and they're looking at the numbers and they're like, what are people doing and how are they making it work? And, I network with a lot of other business owners in my space, and I have a lot of the same frustrations, right? I mean, it's staffing, right? Finding the right team members and all of that stuff. And at the same time, like, we're doing something a little bit different, and I can't teach that. I can try, but it really starts with, for me, it starts with culture, and I'm at a different place in my life, and it's not about just growing to be as big as possible. It's about that kind of tiered growth and making sure for me that, the company and our clients are well taken care of. And I think that gets lost a lot of the time, especially, in a lot of different businesses, right? Sometimes it's all about acquiring the client, and there's my dog next to me. But it's about acquiring the client, and then once you have them, you forget about them. And that's, in a lot of ways, that's sad, and that's it's just a bummer. And if we just focus, like, after we get the clients, how do we work with them? Like you said, without any strings attached, like, how can we help them, like, get to the next level, regardless of what that is? I think that's huge. And I think it's pretty sad how that's been lost in a lot of businesses in the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the guys that, I'm friends with and I look up to, and I've called on at times, but is a guy in the nutrition coaching space, Jason Phillips, and he talks a lot about, he's all about value, right? And is just
Yep.
honing it down, and he's built a really good team and a really good business around that, right? Just how much value can you provide to somebody, and it's really just how can you solve their problem, right? Without any expectation.
Exactly. And I think you hit the nail on the head with that, where it's, you're doing things without the expectation that you're going to get something in return, because it just happens. It happens, organically, that you go above and beyond without that expectation, and you're doing something just to do it, like it comes back to you. And it's not karma, but there's some kind of energy exchange out there that, it works its magic, and it's amazing.
Talking about, like, remember that we were talking earlier about those conversations in your head, right? And I remember when I first stepped off and started doing the gym, doing all this other stuff, like, I had this thing of, like, where I felt like I would like, deep down, I was listening to the voice inside of me and they say, like, hey, just go out and give, right? And I was like, no, it doesn't make sense. Like, logically, it doesn't make sense, right? And I thought I was the only one because I was in that solo, right, island. And then since then, I've, like, the more I listen to entrepreneurs and business owners and people who start things like this, it comes back to that. They all say that, right? Give without expectation. And for me, going back to just scripture and that, and this is not a religious thing, but it's just learning from what it says about giving, right? And that lesson within that, it's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's without the expectation, it also takes a burden off of you too, right? Like, because you're not expecting anything in return, so your feelings aren't hurt if it doesn't come through, or like all those things. And it's like you said, all the business guys, they teach it and they talk about it, but then you got to try it, and it sometimes it doesn't feel like, it's a weird feeling to just do things, and to give, right? Like, a lot of the people that I network with, I started a Facebook group online just for other business owners in my space, and I'm on there every single day typing my perspective and how I did it, and, like, all of my thoughts. I'm not getting anything in return. It's kind of fun for me, and it also helps me not be on an island. And that's, like, my way of giving back to the field and just trying to unite people to, I'm trying to help other business owners, because I know how it is to be on an island and just be sitting there all by myself with that voice. And, I've got no expectations, and things actually come out of it where people have reached out to me for, different advice and different coaching, and they want to work with me because I have all the answers, which I don't, but, I'm just out there giving. And I think that goes back to like what you just said, Anthony, is, no expectation. It comes back to you in spades, and which is cool, which is fun.
Yeah. And then just like, I mean, I know it's not selfish, but through that, your learning process increases, right? So you learn, you do, you teach, you learn, right? I mean, that's the process of it, right? You can't go from learn to teach to learn, right? You've got to do first.
Yep.
And teach and then learn. So, I mean, there's a huge benefit in that too. So I might take you up on that. So very cool. All right, man. You got any questions for me or anything?
Tell me, so, in terms of being battle ready, I know that you've worked through a lot in a short amount of time, and, you're leveraging your experience, but, what are those 4 pillars for you? Like, how are you helping other people and other entrepreneurs or solopreneurs? Like, how are you helping them navigate? Is there any advice that you could give, like myself or anyone listening? Like, what's kind of your method? How do you put it all together for people?
I think the first thing is getting somebody into, and I've been reading this book lately about your zone of greatness. So this framework of zone of incompetence, zone of competence, zone of excellence, and zone of greatness, right? And getting people to understand and really take them through the process of self-discovery, of asking themselves, right? And turning within to ask themselves and find their zone of greatness, right? And in my mind, I look at that as like, what are you best at? What do you love to do? And what impact can you make? And mirroring that together, my belief is that you're going to find your zone of greatness. You're going to find this point where you feel like you're going to make the most impact and really make an effect on this little dent in the universe, right? It doesn't have to be a big dent. And in that, right, it doesn't have to cure cancer or do anything like that. You can bake a cake who changes, somewhat impacts the world. Like one of my examples is like Antonio Stradivari. He's made the best violins, sold once over $20 million. And think about how much he's affected the world, right? He hasn't ended a war, hasn't done anything, but he's made a big impact on the world, right? And there's probably stories within that. And as I look back through my journey, I was like, man, there was like, you being part of the gym, and I was like, when I first started off wanting to go start the gym, like I didn't know, I didn't have the eyes to see what I was going to create and what impact it would have. So that's my first thing that I would get with people. It's like, look, you got to follow that voice within that's pulling you towards into the future to chase your calling, right? Whatever that is. And it changes from year to year and all that stuff. And then how does that represent in the world? And then just start structuring the macro of the business into getting it into these strategic marketing plans, right? And building systems, right? And just knowing how to execute and helping them build that framework of how to execute their business and build it down into simple daily disciplines in their marketing, sales, leadership, and fulfillment. So, yeah, I mean,
that's awesome. I love it. I love those 4. I think a lot of people out there who are solopreneurs could definitely benefit because you don't know what you don't know, and it's like without putting those systems in place, like you're just kind of floundering and you're just trying things and you just don't really know which way is up and what way is down. And it's good to get systematized. It's good to put those, you got to focus on leadership. You got to focus on marketing. You got to focus on sales. You got to focus on customer, like just kind of compartmentalizing all those things, I think is huge. And to have someone like you just kind of walk people through, this is how you do it. And this is where you make the biggest impact. And this is where, this is where you could go next. And this is what you might want to try next and all those things. I think it's awesome, Anthony. I'm excited. That's cool. It's very cool.
Yeah. I mean, I remember networking with different business owners and all that stuff. And even when I first stepped into my mom's business, like she taught me a lot about, she taught me how to go, like, just go do something
Yeah.
and just go, like, just gotta go. Like, and she's helped people start, I don't know how many people she's helped start businesses and stuff, but at the end of the day, she doesn't have this macro plan. She doesn't have this system and all this other stuff. So I really learned that from her. But so when I stepped in and joined her in business and with my own location and all that stuff, I started looking, I was like, the first red light that came off, and I think it came from my dad. He was an operator type of, like, lead, he ran body shops. So he was known for taking body shops and turning them around. And I just remember absorbing, I don't know, spiritually or just by intuitively, like walking into his body shop and into his office, and everything was just dialed in. And, he kind of had a relaxed way he managed, because he didn't have to, he was so organized and so, like, dialed in. So that was the first thing that I started dealing with. Okay, we're going to deal with the bookkeeping and the systems and that. So, like, I always saw, like, a big problem with, I don't know, just something goes off when I hear certain small business owners talk sometimes, and I'm like, oh man, you need to get just dialed in. Like,
yep.
There's systems and there's, like, leadership of where you think you need to be doing stuff and you don't need to be doing that, right? And giving away, not seeing the value in paying somebody to do that. Because that's a big mindset change of, like, going from, look, I've been doing everything on my, and this is the frame that I look at. You have immaturity, you're immature, you have adolescence, and you have adulthood, right? Childhood, adolescence, adulthood in your business, right? You birth your business, and then you yourself in this childhood state are pretty much doing majority of it. And then once you're in adolescence, like, you start delegating, and there's this gap right there from going here to here, that it's a big mindset shift. And even going from just immature adolescence to mature adolescence, that's a big mindset change, because the more you have to progress in your leadership and actually give away more than you keep, right? So you have to give away more of what you do and start really honing into what you're really good at. And then when you get in from a mature adolescence into adulthood, you're going to have to really learn how to manage managers and lead them, right? And rise above and not get pulled back into there. And really, I think there's, again, giving away even more in my style and my vision of leadership is, like, look, once I get to that point and I have this team, I've got to turn to them and be like, I've got to have faith in them, and the advice that they're giving is right, or have that, but also at the same time, turkey within and be like, okay, what does my gut say about that? And I think as you become more and more of a leader, you've got to really internalize and lead with take what information you have, and then at the end of the day, choose with your gut.
Definitely. And, you kind of scared me with all those adolescents and, like, all those terms. Like, it was a little scary for me. I kind of look at it the same way, but I look at it, like, from a business perspective of, like, right now I'm in the infancy stage, right? It's a new business. I'm growing like crazy. I'm going to be at a certain level at the end of the year, which is going to be a pretty big level. Like, we're doing well for a small business. And then, after, maybe there's, I look at kind of like a revenue standpoint, right? So between 0 to 500,000, you need to have this skill set. 500 to $1 million, you've got to have this skill set. Once you're at 3 million, it's a different skill set. Once you're at 5, 10, 15, 20, like, that's kind of how I look at it. And that's where I also know too that, the mentors that work with me right now, like, I potentially could outgrow them in a year or two, because some of them have had experience in smaller businesses and, where they know how to run things and manage things, and it gets you to that level. But they don't have the experience to take you, like you said, you have to internalize things. You got to trust in your team, right? You're hiring people smarter than you, like, as you're growing, and you just got to give up the reins. Sometimes you got to get out of your own way because you've built something, and you just got to step back and say, look, I can't do everything myself. I've got an amazing team. And I think that's one of the key things for you too, that you offer, is that you can help people see that a lot sooner than they probably would see it on their own. And I think it's so needed right now in so many businesses.
I think the two things is like, right, the tools and the framework to put into place so you could see what's happening, right, and what needs to be done, right? That's important. And then the support on the mindset, because I think more than anything, like you could go find a lot of tools and systems and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, the mindset, what it takes to progress through those. And
Yep.
And as you were talking about that, like I know about your marketing background and the companies that you've worked with and the volumes that you've done, right? So I think that I was like, no, the reason why he's going to do that, because he's seen it, he's been there, he's had that mindset, he's been a part of that, you know? And I look back to my last experience with the shopping centers, and like, I looked at, you know, when I was trying to build this empire, right, with the gym, I was trying to build architect this big thing, right? And then because I thought that's what I needed, right? But then when I got over into a different elm that was big, and I was like, well, I didn't need that big of a thing, right? I didn't need that big of a framework, right? And it's like, then that was like, oh, okay, got it, right? It's bigger, but it's not more complex at the same time, right?
Right.
So, and being able to look at extra zeros, and I think that you've dealt with that, so I think that's what's going to help you progress. That's why your trajectory is so much higher, right? Beyond your skills and tactics, right? You've seen it.
Definitely. I've seen it. I've been there. And, you know, I still need to leverage people who have been a lot farther than me, you know, like that's it. It's so much, and it's a daily practice, and it's always self-reflection, and, you know, it's trusting yourself, trusting the people that are around you, trusting the people that are with you, you know, making sure they have your back, and, you know, all of that stuff, right? Like that's really where it's at. And that's, you know, so I'm glad to be here tonight too. Like this is fun. I don't get to talk about this kind of thing very often, so I get excited like with these questions. So this has been a lot of fun, Anthony. This has been great.
I've enjoyed it too. Like, you know, I mean, I sit around and talk. I think it takes a lot of pressure off of Melissa, because like we sit and talk about what she's doing and all this other stuff. She's been starting her own little business on the side, and I've had the joy of coaching her. And it's like, oh, I can talk to somebody else now, you know?
Nice.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you for being the first guest on.
Yeah, I'm stoked, and thank you so much again for being guest number one. I'm beyond grateful, and, you know, grateful for our friendship as well. It's been awesome, and I see nothing but, you know, big things for both of us. So thank you again.
Awesome. Appreciate it so much. Talk to you soon, man.
All right, take it easy.
All right, guys. So that's it for episode number 2. I'll see you back here next week with episode number 3. We're going to cover sales as the framework of this of this show. Is week 1 where we focus on leadership. Week 2, which is today, we focused on marketing. Next week is sales, and week 4 is lifestyle and personal development. So next week we're going to talk with Peter Scott, my mentor, about sales and his background and what he's experienced in sales. And we'll go from there. I'll see you next week, 7 p.m. Mountain. And you can figure out the rest of the time zones, because I'm not doing that. I'll see you later.
See you guys.